Okay, very good. I hope everyone can hear me. Rosemary, thank you very much for having Interpretype host this Network Vendor Forum. We're excited to be here, and I'm glad we have so many participants. So this should be pretty exciting. I'm a little unfamiliar with Illuminate, but I did some training with Rosemary, so hopefully it'll go smoothly. And if not, please bear with me. I will get through it. You should be seeing a slide on your screen right now, the Interpretype screen with the ITY logo on it. This is our slideshow, and for the most part, I won't be spending a lot of time doing just a slideshow. There's about a dozen slides. It'll take me about 15 or 20 minutes to go through the slides and tell you all the features of Interpretype. And then I'm going to close the slideshow, open up my screen, and I'll be working directly with Interpretype, the software itself, so you can see exactly how it works and what all the features are. So I think when I get through, you're going to have a pretty good understanding of what Interpretype is and what it can do for you. You can see our slogan there. It says Universal Access to Conversation. Our original slogan was Connecting Business with the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. I designed this back in 2003 to help as a customer service tool over the counter here in Rochester, New York, because we have such a large deaf population in Rochester with National Technical Institute for the Deaf nearby. And it worked very well. We used different types of screens. We had a black keyboard with an LCD screen, and we got those to talk to each other. And then we wrote a Windows software program and allowed those units to talk to Windows programs. But then people started asking for more things. They wanted language translations, so we added Spanish. Then later we added French. And then people said they want more languages, and they want video, and they want VRI. And right around that time, about 3 years ago, the little netbooks started coming out, which had internet connections and webcams and had all sorts of capabilities to do VRS and VRI. So we switched to a different platform. We now use the netbook computers is what we ship Interpretype on. Although we are a software company, you can buy just software. For the most part, most people buy the prepackaged computers, which we use, these Acer netbooks. And just so you know, I'm doing this whole webinar on one of the Interpretype computers. It's a 10.1-inch Acer netbook, so it's pretty robust. And you'll see that I'll be doing quite a bit with the software. I'll be doing a little bit of video and broadcasting this webinar all at the same time. So to move through this a little bit, our next slide. We're proud of this. Interpretype was the recipient of the 2006 Disability Rights Advocacy Eagle Award. One company can only get this once in their lifetime. We were proud to receive this in 2006. And this is like the People's Choice Awards for the disability community. We were nominated by the deaf community in this country, and I was awarded this in Berkeley, California. They give 3 Eagle Awards and 3 Turkey Awards each year to only one company in its lifetime. To any company in the world, actually. And we're very lucky not to receive one of the Turkey Awards. You certainly don't want to get one of those. That means the disability community is very disappointed in what you've done. But the Eagle Award we're very proud of, and it was a big surprise to us, so it's a pretty big deal, so we're kind of proud of that. Okay, I really hate when I go into a presentation and people start using these acronyms and I don't know what they mean. So I'd like to give you a quick education about these acronyms. VI is Video Interpreter, VRS, Video Relay Service, VRI, Video Remote Interpreting, and sometimes I'll say ITY, which stands for Interpretype. I guess I'll do a poll. Can I see, if you want to click the green check mark, if you know what VRS and VRI is all about and how it works? See if I can see some of you answer these questions. Rosemary does for sure. I'd be happy to describe it. Okay, there's a few that do, a few that don't. Okay, so let me describe it quickly. VRS, Video Relay Service. You're probably familiar with the relay service that we used a long time with TTYs, where people would type text back and forth. You'd get a phone call from a relay operator. They'd say that they're an operator and they have a deaf person on the other line, and they'd type as you spoke and read things back and forth to you while the deaf individual typed on their TTY, and it's pretty slow and cumbersome. Well, nowadays almost all deaf individuals use video relay service. That's the same thing as the text relay, except they're wearing a headset and they're doing it through video. So they're actually performing sign language over the internet to deaf individuals. So it's much, much quicker. We all pay for that service. It's fairly expensive, but there's little surcharges in our phone bills and our cell phone bills, and that's how that gets paid for. And it has to be done, it's a telecom service that's provided, and it has to be done in a different room. And what I mean is, if you want to have a video relay call, it's supposed to be a phone call to someone at least in a different room. If you're in the same room, they would consider that you using them as an interpreter, and the federal government doesn't want you to do that and doesn't want to pay for it. So that's where video remote interpreting comes in. You're not allowed to be in the same room and use VRS. So if you are in the same room and you want to use a video remote interpreter, you need to hire that interpreter, pay for them yourself, and provide the equipment, and then you can do it. Virtually VRS and VRI are the same thing. The difference being VRI, both parties are in the same room, the hearing person and the deaf individual. And we'll get into that in a little more detail because Interpretype does provide the ability to use both those services. Since you don't have Interpretype in front of you, I like to put up a visual so everyone knows what I'm talking about and what things look like. And you can see there's a deaf individual there typing to this man across the counter. Those are two Interpretype computers. You can see some text on their screen. They're communicating through text. They're both connected wirelessly, and they can easily chat back and forth. It's basically face-to-face instant messaging. So I want you to keep that in mind. That's actually what's sitting on my table here as I do this webinar. So I'll show this slide again later, but just keep that in mind. That's what Interpretype looks like. Usually they come in a pair of units like that. Okay. What percent of the U.S. population cannot speak to you? The percentages listed here are people that don't speak English well enough when they leave their home to make their way through college or university, make their way through academic life or in the workforce. So as you can see, the largest population is Spanish, 11%. There's 4 other languages make up 7%, and then the other languages there listed are 3%. And the deaf, these are mostly the profoundly deaf, not necessarily the hard of hearing, is about 4%. So in general, nearly 25% of the walking population in the U.S. does not speak English well enough to hold down a job or do well in school. And Interpretype's job is to try and get that percentage down to 0. And I'll show you how we do that. So what does Interpretype do? We eliminate barriers for people that are either deaf or hard of hearing, that have a speech disability. We do have a deaf-blind solution, and I'll show you how that works, or if they're fluent in a language other than English. So as I go through this, I want you to keep some scenarios in mind. Some of you may be deaf, some of you may be counselors are looking to deal with deaf individuals, so there's lots of ways Interpretype can be used. So ideally keep some of these things in mind. When I initially designed it, it was not so much a accommodation for a deaf individual as it was a tool to allow organizations to become more deaf-friendly. So think of it as a receptionist using an Interpretype at her computer and another Interpretype computer up on the counter, and any walk-in traffic, any customer that walks in can actually text back and forth with her and have a conversation very easily. So receptionist is one use. Counselors or trainers working with deaf individuals, you take a pair of Interpretype devices or perhaps your own laptop and one Interpretype device. They can go out into the field. They don't need the internet. They don't need an infrastructure. They can just set up on anybody's kitchen table or on a park bench and have conversations with deaf individuals. As an accommodation, it works great for deaf students navigating their way through school or college campuses. A lot of schools have set up an infrastructure of Interpretype at all the student access points, like campus safety, housing. They may have these Interpretype units wherever the students may need to have a conversation with someone at the library or whatnot, so that they can easily communicate with the people along the other side of the counter. They work great for deaf internship programs. The key to any university is the number of students that get jobs when they graduate. So what better way for a deaf individual to make their way in the marketplace as to walk into an internship and say, yeah, I'm deaf, but I have the tools I need to communicate with anybody in or outside this organization. Just show me to my desk and let me do my job. Same goes for deaf employees at their workplace. It's a great accommodation that way. And because we do video, it also allows interpreters to broadcast their services from a remote location or allows companies to set up their own call center using Interpretype. Instead of sending interpreters across campus or across the state to meet with deaf individuals, interpreters can actually stay at home or stay at their office and broadcast their services over the internet using video interpreting on Interpretype. The users themselves, like I said, a receptionist for intake. It can be used for private meetings or interviews, performance evaluations. I have a deaf employee that works for me here, and once a year we do his performance evaluation. And we do it on Interpretype. And we type back and forth to each other. We have an understanding of what's going to happen, whether or not he's going to get a raise or not. When it's all done, I save the conversation, I print it, I put it in this folder, and there's nothing to write up. Everything that was said is printed verbatim, word for word. I can give him a copy if he wants. There's signature lines at the bottom that are printed automatically, and we make it a binding document, and that's how the performance evaluation is done. For classroom training, it works very well. We have a new feature that I'll show you about that will allow lectures to be captioned and then sent to anyone in the audience that has an Interpretype device. They can actually watch the lecture get streamed in text, whatever the teacher is saying. It's also ideal for off-site meetings. As I said before, you can go out and set up on a kitchen table or something. Group meetings, if you have a small group, maybe one or two deaf individuals in the group, you can set up Interpretype and they'll be considered in the loop and be able to communicate with the rest of the members of the meeting. And in addition, because these are netbooks or they're Windows computers, they have a port where you could plug in an LCD projector and put the whole thing, whole conversation or the video interpreter up on a large screen so the rest of the class can see it. So it doesn't have to be just the person looking at that screen. And lastly, emergency communication works very well in hospital emergency rooms, but we found another use. Many ambulances now have their own mobile hotspot. They have the internet with them. And if that's the case, all you need is an Interpretype unit in the ambulance, and you can connect to the internet. An EMT just needs to put on a headset, turn the Interpretype unit around to the patient, and they can actually have a sign language interpreter on the screen doing interpreting while the ambulance is en route to the hospital. So it's pretty exciting stuff. Any questions so far? I don't see anybody typing anything yet. If you do have questions, if you don't mind, I can talk slower, absolutely. I am not watching the captionist. I hope I'm not giving her a hard time, or if she can keep up. Okay. Anyone have any questions at this time? I'll just keep moving on. If you have any questions, I don't mind if you pop them in there and I'll handle them as they come. I like to keep things a little more informal than most, I suppose. Okay. The capabilities of Interpretype. Face-to-face text communication. Obviously, we can type back and forth to each other in text, like instant messaging. Face-to-face language translation using text. We can type in English and it will come out in either Spanish or French, or we can type in Spanish or French and it'll come back in English. So those are the languages we do using text. We can do voice-to-text communication. Since all our computers come on a Windows 7 platform, Windows 7 has speech recognition built into it. And my understanding is it's as good, if not better, than Dragon Naturally Speaking 10. I'm not sure about 11. I haven't tested it yet, although I've heard great things about it. But this Windows 7 speech recognition is very powerful. So that's how we're able to do our lecture automation mode for teachers, using that voice-to-text. It can be used for VRS and VRI, so that deaf individuals can place calls for local or distant conversations. And then, last but not least, over-the-phone language translation. This is how we do the other 236 languages that we offer, or 238 languages that we offer. All we need to do is have each user put on a headset. We call a remote translator, which we use a company in Vancouver, Washington State, connect to that translator, and they will translate any of 240 languages and find you a translator in less than a minute. So that's how we accommodate all the other languages. We only do Spanish and French in text. Okay. Once you launch an Interpretype computer, there's one big toolbar that shows up in the middle of the screen. It's pretty simple. We offer 3 modes of communication, and you can see by the look of these buttons. One is text. In fact, you can probably see my mouse here. One is text, one's video, and one is phone. When you open up the text window, that's the heart of Interpretype, where most of our software and most of our customers use it the most. This allows you to have the instant communication with deaf or hard of hearing individuals, and allows you to do the real-time English or French language translation. And that's what the screen looks like. And this is what I'm going to jump into when I finish the slideshow and show you how it all works. Okay, I have a question here. Hello, I wonder how many languages allow to use on text in VRS. Well, in text for Interpretype, we only allow English to Spanish or English to French and back again. As far as VRS goes, it depends on what VRS operator you connect to. They may have a Spanish sign language interpreter, maybe they have Canadian, and I'm not sure where you may be connecting, but that would be up to the VRS provider. Interpretype ourselves are not VRS providers. We use third parties for that. So I hope that answers your question. Let's see if there's any questions before her. How much do the devices cost? Okay, I will get into that a little later because there's many different configurations, but I'll go over the costs near the end of it and tell you exactly how we sell them and all the different variations you can buy, because it's pretty, it varies quite a bit depending on what your needs are, and we certainly don't want to sell you more equipment than you may need. So I'll get into that near the end. Okay. Looks like we have one more here. FCC's policy for English and Spanish only. I have learned from VRS providers. Okay. Thank you for that answer, Karen, if I pronounced your name correctly. Okay, so when you open up the text, you have 3 ways to connect Interpretype, by the way. They come with about a 7-foot USB to USB cord, so you can plug in one computer to another, and you're instantly connected. You don't need any other infrastructure, and you can communicate with one other Interpretype device. You can also not use that cable and connect through the LAN, the local area network, or the blue Ethernet cable. Once you plug into a network, or through a Wi-Fi, same kind of thing. You can either plug in the blue cable or you can connect to a wireless network. On the local area network or a Wi-Fi network, you can have as many Interpretype units connected as you like. So we can have over 100 users in one conversation. Or you could have 20 conversations with 5 different users in each. It really makes no difference. So once you get off the wired connection and go to the local area network or the Wi-Fi, you can have pretty much an unlimited number of users using them. So that's pretty exciting. Okay, since this was originally designed as a customer service tool, we've added some features that I'll be showing you in detail. But on the side over here is called our macro key toolbar. And this is like a customer service tool that really helps expedite conversations. What it is macro files are one-line phrases or statements that you can load into the function keys. There's 9 addresses, F2 through F10, and you can type in anything you like in there. Hello, welcome to California, whatever you want to say. So all you have to do is press the F2 key or click these buttons, and you'll send that phrase into the conversation. So for customer service tools, you have to ask a lot of questions very quickly and move through a lot of people. You can do it pretty rapidly. And as an accommodation for a deaf individual, if he has the same kind of questions or the same things he wants to answer people all the time, he can type in statements in there and use them over and over again. And I'll show you that when we jump into it. Again, another visual, just so you keep in mind what Interpretype devices look like and how they're set up. Okay, this is what a VRI call would look like, video remote interpreting. It's the same as VRS, but these people are in the same room. So what's happened here is this woman behind the counter is talking on another Interpretype computer down on the counter below her. You can't see it. She's talking to the remote interpreter that's on the screen, who could be in any city. The deaf individual here is signing to the interpreter on the screen, and the interpreter's verbally telling the woman behind the counter exactly what he's saying, and vice versa. So that's what a VRI call would look like, for those of you that have never seen it before. We also offer the VRS, where a deaf individual, what happens is you would register your Interpretype computer as a 10-digit number. And as a registered number, if you called another video phone, it would connect video to video as you're seeing right here. So one deaf individual can be signing to another deaf individual, and there'd be no VRS operator involved. If that same 10-digit registered number called a landline or called a hearing person, a video remote interpreter would show up immediately. A VRS operator would show up immediately and start signing, saying, okay, we're calling the number you dialed. Just a minute, it's ringing. Hello, I have Ken on the line. You can begin the conversation, and they will interpret the call. So instead of seeing the other person, they would see the remote operator, and that's all automatic with the 10-digit numbers that's set up in the U.S. So deaf individuals can call hearing or deaf people anywhere in the country. And last but not least, under the phone icon, we have Skype. And a lot of you may be very familiar with Skype. What we like about Skype is the video's got very, very good. In the past couple of years, they've had some upgrades that are pretty powerful. And it offers the use of the audio feed, which we need to provide sound to the interpreters. That is something that under our video button, we use Purple P3 software to act as a video phone. And Purple doesn't offer the audio feed at this point in time. So we need to get the audio and the video going. So that's why we use Skype. What's also nice about Skype is we have a contact list. And we preload ITY support, ITY translation, or video relay, so that if you have a question with Interpretype, you really don't have to look up our number or send us an email. You can just click support, and it'll automatically call our support center right from your Interpretype computer, and we can give you support directly over Skype. Just one of the features we offer. And if you wanted to have a translated conversation, this is what it would look like. Both parties would call a remote translator. The woman would request, what would happen was you'd call ITY translation. They would answer the phone, Interpretype translation. What's your account number and what language would you like? And they'll say 1 minute while your translator's located. You just say I need Vietnamese and my account number is 836. They'll say 1 moment while your translator's located, and in less than a minute they'll find someone to translate any of 240 languages. So pretty incredible. So that's what a over-the-phone translated conversation would look like. And last but not least, we have a mobile cart, which we designed, had a hospital supply company design this for us. It rolls down the hallway very, very easily. It's very well built. It's a pretty sturdy unit. It holds a pair of Interpretype devices on top. Underneath this little table is a power strip, a hospital-grade power supply. So you can actually plug the units right in here, and then when you plug this into the wall, it acts as a charging station. Then there's a little basket here to hold all the cords. And literally there's IV hooks that you can hang the headsets on, so they're always there ready to use. So we designed this primarily for hospitals, but we found that the TSA uses these as security checkpoints more so than hospitals have been buying them. And what the TSA uses them for is they'll just wheel them over to whatever lane they may need to communicate with a passenger at and use it right there in the airports. And that's the end of the slideshow. There's other information right here, and I can probably show this to you later again, but just wanted to go through that briefly. And I'll take some questions right now if you have any, and then I will open up my screen and jump in and show you how Interpretype works exactly, and we'll do some playing with it. So anybody have any questions at this point? Don't see any. Don't see any hands raised. Okay, what I'm going to do is share my screen. Let's see what we can do here. Share my desktop. Okie doke. And now I want to minimize this window. Just give me 1 minute while I do this, because I need the whole screen to show you Interpretype tools. There we go. Okay, now hopefully you can all see what's on my screen here. And I'm not sure how many will see if anybody has a question, but I think hopefully it will pop up if we do. Okay, so as I showed you in the original slideshow, the main toolbar is right here, Interpretype Communication Toolbar, and you can see text, video, and phone Oh, looks like someone has a text here. Let me see what that is. Yes, I can see your screen. Wonderful. Thank you, Rosemary. Now I know. Okay. Now if I can close this guy. Hide the mess. Okay, good. So if I click on text, it brings up the Interpretype screen, which is a little changed around because of the... Okay, and there you can see the screen that you saw on the slideshow. Very simple. My name is already highlighted. All I have to do is click log on, and it says Ken is signed on. And I do have another Interpretype device set up next to me. And I'm going to pretend Darlene is in the room chatting with me, but I'm actually just chatting with myself here. But, so, once she hits enter, they both sign on. I'll go, hello, Darlene. Thanks for helping me today. And she's typing. And you can see it's pretty easy to have a conversation. So back and forth we go. And you can see it puts in an indicator who's talking. Now it doesn't do it at every line. So Darlene had 2 lines she said here, and it didn't change names. And then when Ken finally typed back me, you can see it changed the name and it says Ken is talking. So pretty simple. I can type as much as I like, and if I run off the end of a line, it word wraps and sends the line into the conversation. So you can just keep typing and typing, and it'll keep streaming it into the conversation. So pretty easy to see. Let's see, someone have another question here. Let's see. Do I have background color in the conversation line? The Interpretype program itself, let's see if I can hide this again. Wait a minute. Okay. Allows you to adjust font sizes all you want. But to change the background color, you'd have to do it in the Windows settings, and yes, it can be done. So you can do reverse video or do things for low vision people. That's all adjustable under Windows. So with Windows 7, you can adjust the background of all of these. So I keep it as this black and white, but if you want to change it, all you do is change your Windows setting, and it'll do it for this program. So we got another question about the text color. Yes, I think same thing. Windows will allow you to adjust the text color and the background color. So you can do whatever you want. We originally looked into doing it ourselves, but then when we got playing with Windows, we realized all those features were already there, so we didn't need to invent that wheel all over again. Yes, you can. Oh, that's Roy answering us, I think. That yes, you can. That's true. Okay. Oh, thanks to Rosemary. Okay, cool. Okay, so I typed all these lines. Now let's say I have some preloaded statements that I'd like to use. For instance, here is my macro key toolbar up here. So if I just click the F2 button, what was up here just jumped down here. I can press enter. It goes into the conversation. And Darlene can answer me. F3, how can I help you? I can send that in. And you can pretty much rapid fire these all you want and send these into the conversation. Now if you don't like this group of macros, down below here are some macro files that I have, groups of 9 questions. So if I'm done with this set of questions and I want to set up another set, I just click one of these radio buttons and you'll see all these questions get refreshed, and now what I had under airport is shown. So you've probably seen some of these questions before. I see a photo ID. How many bags will you be checking? Are you carrying hazardous substances or weapons? So you can see for a customer service standpoint, you can ask a lot of questions very, very quickly. And if you're clever enough to ask yes or no questions, you can get a lot of answers done very, very quickly without asking the other party to type very much. So it's very helpful that way. Let's see. If you don't like what's in there, you can just hit clear entry. It'll wipe it out. You don't have to hit the backspace all the time. That's built in there. So what I want to do now is run through some of these buttons and show you what they do, and then show you a little bit of behind the scenes, what's under the hood for Interpretype and for people with other types of disabilities. Looks like I got another question here. To Rosemary. Oh, how many macro files can you upload? That's a good question. Each macro file has 9 questions. Well, actually, I'm going to show you right now. I'll do that right now because I was going to show you under Logon, you can have as many names as you like here, so you have different users. You can have them. And when you click the Logon button, obviously it says Ken signed on. The next button over is the Macros button, and this is where you create the macros. So if I click this button, you'll see here's all the macros from that airport one that I loaded. There's the 9 questions and which function key they're in. So if I want to change one, I just hit like function key F5. All I can do is highlight it. I can type whatever I like in here. When I press enter, it'll jump back up into that space. I can save it. And you're limited to 9 statements in each macro file, but you can have an unlimited number of macro files that you like. So if I hit this browse button, you'll see it's just a regular Windows folder that opens up, and here's a couple dozen macro files that I have. But what's nice is you can share these with other people. You can put them on a flash drive, put them on other computers. You can email them to people, and they can upload them. There's even a read from or send to. I can push or pull these to or from other Interpretype devices that I'm connected to if I want to. If I connect to your Interpretype and you've got 2 or 3 macro files that I'd like, all I got to do is read from your device. It'll populate this thing, this screen. I'll give it a new name and save it, and I've captured your macros. So what's kind of neat, if you look here, you'll see there's a bunch of macros that say court legal, court domestic violence, court clerk. One of our largest customers is the New York Unified Court System. They bought 180 systems and they distribute them all around New York State, but not in the courtroom. These are for the court periphery. So, for instance, family court. When you sign up for family court, they have Interpretype there if you have questions or things, or you have a domestic violence case, or you're in for a criminal action, or you're going for jury duty. What they asked us to do is they said, listen, before you ship the devices, we want to create all of our own macro files. And, by the way, we want the Spanish translation to be loaded in the dictionary, so those are correct also, because we may not trust the machine version of the translation. So they gave us all their macro files and the Spanish translation, and we preloaded them all on all the computers we shipped to New York State. So all 180 systems that went out across the state had the exact same macro files preloaded, and every computer throughout the state was identical. Here's another question here. Let's see. Excellent macros for different situations. Yes, that's cool. Thank you. Okay. So, yeah, very, very helpful. And like I said, you can get through a lot of people. If you're real clever about how you design your macros using yes or no questions, you can get a lot done. Now, what's kind of neat about this is you can see this macro key toolbar on the side. I can make that go away just by clicking this little button down the bottom here, and if you look at the back of the screen, you'll see it disappear and go on again. So it's just an on-off switch for the macro key toolbar. So just for fun, let me turn that off, and I'll close this window, and you can see what this looks like without the macros. Now, some other features we have will allow you to, if I switch screen modes, what it would ask me to do is set up a password. If I set up a password, some of these buttons would disappear. The Save, Print, Clear button would disappear. The macro button would disappear. And then there's a way to lock this down and get rid of the Close, Maximize, and Minimize buttons. So what we can do is we can dumb one of these down and make it for use with the general public. So for instance, every Interpretype unit pair we ship, one says server and the other doesn't, and that's kind of so I can separate one from the other. I call one like the primary user's Interpretype, which I'm using now that you guys are watching, and the one that's connected I call the client. And sometimes what we'll do is we'll dumb down the client so that if it's going to be a public use computer, we can lock this thing down so the customer can't break out of the program whatsoever. He can't close or maximize or minimize. He can't even, we can get rid of Control-Alt-Delete. We can get rid of this Windows button right here so that the customer can't ever break out of the program. They can't look at the hard drive, they can't browse the internet, and it makes it a true public computer. So we do have those features in here. We also have the ability to eliminate the copy feature, the paste feature, the save and print feature for HIPAA compliance. Some hospitals don't want to be able to save any conversations. So in the background we have a way of turning all that off. So just so you know, if you want to use this as a receptionist tool for the public, we can dumb it right down for the public. So for our display purposes, I'll turn that macro key toolbar back on. I'll close it. I'll resize it a little bit. And all these are adjustable, by the way. You know, if you want to see your macros a little better, you can move it over. That's all adjustable. So that's kind of what's under the macro button. If I go to the Clear Conversation button, it comes up with this little screen. Clear Local window, which is the computer I'm on now. Clear Local and Remote, which is mine and all the other connected Interpretype devices. So if I click this Clear Local and Remote and hit Proceed, it's going to ask me, are you sure? I'll type yes. And it completely wipes out this conversation, and it wiped out the conversation on the other unit as well. So now if I have someone walk up to the counter, I'm not worried that they're going to see the conversation that was left there from the person before. So that was the Clear Conversation button. Under Save Print Clear, it will automatically save the conversation. It will automatically clear the conversation. I have the option of sending it to a default printer right here. And if I did language translation, I have the option of including the translated language. If I hit Proceed, you'll see that it'll bring up a Windows Save As box. Here's what it looks like here. So it actually gives it a name, a temporary name, and I can actually change this. It gives you the date and time, or the date. I can actually change this to, Interpretype Forum, August 9th or whatever I want. Give it a name, hit Save, and when I do, it becomes these little .ity files, and it's just a regular sitting in the right here in the C drive, ITY reports in the reports directory. So that's what happens if you hit the Save Print Clear button. And I'll show you a saved conversation in a minute. Looks like we have another question here. Let's see what we've got. Can you save the conversation file to other formats such as .txt, RTF, and Word? Yes, I'll show you how to do that as well. We save it in our own encrypted method, but then you can actually copy and paste it into any other application you like. So I'll show you how that's done, Rosemary, in a minute. Okay. If I can get that to go away. There we go. Okay. Last but not least, the Languages button. I talked a little bit about language translation. Under this button, it allows me to change local terminal, which is my terminal, to English, French, or Spanish. I can set the remote terminal to English, French, or Spanish, and I can enable or disable the French and Spanish translations. I also have the option of selecting custom dictionaries that I may have set up. Now the language translation is an option, a fairly expensive option at that, so if you're only working with deaf or hard of hearing individuals, it's not necessary that you buy the language module, but it is available. And as a customer service tool, people love it because not only can you handle deaf individuals, but you can also handle French or Spanish speaking individuals. So that's what's under the Languages button. So those are all the buttons across the bottom in the macro key toolbar. The next thing to show you is kind of what's under the hood and what saved conversations look like. So under this File button right here are some things that you've already seen. So let's see, Load Macros, that's the same as hitting the macro button down below. Save Print Clear you saw, and Clear Conversation you already saw. So let's go to Open Existing. And that would be to open up one of the conversations that's already been saved. So just for fun, I'm going to open up this first one here. It's between Ken and Eduardo. It was done in 2009. But I'd like to show this for demonstration purposes. So here's what a conversation looks like that's been saved and printed. It tells you where it lives on the computer and the date and time. Puts a date and time stamp down here. Now there's also a header you can have in here, which I don't have any text in my header itself, but you could put a header in there. Let's see what happened to line 1. Sometimes when I resize it, it changes like that. It said Eduardo signed on. It's cut off a little bit. But it puts line numbers in the conversation that weren't there before. In the conversation, all we had were these arrows going back and forth. So there's line numbers here. So if you drop 26 pages of this conversation on the floor, you can put it back together again. Now this conversation was done between me and Eduardo was actually speaking Spanish. So if we look at the last 3 lines, or 4 lines, 17 through 20, he said, I said that's okay, Eduardo said perfect. So if we go down, that was the English version, and then it shows you the Spanish version, and then line by line, you can see what was going on. So here's line 17 through 20. Ken said eso is acceptable. Eduardo said perfecto. At the end of the conversation, we have our footer, which I had typed in, and I can show you where we do that. You can put anything you want in this footer. These are optional footers. Conversation is confidential, may not be duplicated. And then at the very end, they automatically always put in signature lines to make it a binding document. Whether you use them or not, it's up to you, but they always print. It's built into the program. So that's what a saved conversation looks like. Now to answer Rosemary's question, if you want to put this in another place, all you have to do is copy it and then paste it someplace else. So if you have, if you want to put it in Word, you want to put it in an email, you can copy the whole conversation, take the whole thing, copy it, paste it to another application. Since you're in Windows, you can just close or minimize these, open up another application somewhere, drop it in, and you've got the text. But you can't open an Interpretype saved file without the Interpretype program itself, this open existing. These .ity files are encrypted, and without our software, you can't open them. So if you did want to share it with someone, you would have to put it in another format, like in WordPad or in Word, something like that. So I hope that answers your question about that. So that's open existing. Switch screen modes, that asks for the password, and that will lock this thing down. That will get rid of the maximize, minimize, and close buttons and some other things, and that will basically do the screen lock, which I showed you about. And last but not least is setup options. So if I click this, this is kind of under the hood. This is where all the interesting goodies are set in Interpretype. So let me go through this a little bit. You'll notice down here we're in this Communications tab. There's 3 other tabs down here which I'll go through and show you what they are. But basically right now I'm talking over my COM port number 7 at 19200 baud, and my computer is number 65. If I hit the refresh address table, it'll show me all the other Interpretype computers connected. I have one right here, and you can see it's already looking at it. It says, I'll wait till it's finished. It's looking for more devices. Okay, this one here belongs to Darlene. Here's the version she's running. This one here belongs to Ken. So if you had more than one user, this whole table would be populated, and you could see who was in the conversation. This is where you look at that. If you hit the refresh, it'll go out and look for more people. The only thing you have to know is you can't have the same number. I can't have another 65 in the conversation. Someone has to be a different number, like Darlene's 96. One of the newest features we just added is this enable new message notification. With this selected, what this does is, if we have Interpretype running, say, on someone's desktop on a network, and they minimize the Interpretype window, and it's just running in the background, if someone sends them a message, they had no way to know unless they opened this program all the time and kept looking at the screen. Well, now, with enable new message notification, this will flash 10 times in the system tray and then go to a steady orange light. So all you have to do is watch your tray or glance down at your tray. If you see it bright orange, you'll see that someone had a question or someone sent you a message, and you'll be able to look at it. So for deaf individuals to use this on their desktop running in the background all the time, that was ideal, and that's one thing we added. All right, a little lower here. A lot of people like to use go ahead, like a GA key like they used to use on TTYs. Well, if you hit the escape button, it'll put out whatever you put in this box. So our go ahead is the escape button. If I press that, it would put go ahead in the conversation. No one really uses it, but we added that feature. When we logged on, it said Ken is talking or Darlene is talking. You can change this to whatever you like. If you don't like seeing us talking all the time, you can say Ken : nothing else. But there's other features besides name you can put in here. You can put date, you can put time. We have police officers that use this for interrogation. We have hostage negotiators that use this for silent communications so that the criminals can't hear them. They can just type to each other. And we can put date, we can actually date and timestamp every line you enter so that you have a running document, a sequence of exactly when the events took place and what was said. So you can add date, time, things like that, and it'll tell you to the second when this conversation took place. Then down here, here's the signed on phrase. You can change that too if you like. So that's kind of the Communications tab. History directories. This is how many names it keeps track of when you log on or in when you change macro files. It's kind of not really that necessary, but you can change if you have a change of receptionist, you want different names up there, you can clear the history and start over again. Directories, this is where your conversations will live when you save them. And you can put this wherever you want. You can put those up on a server if you want to. It doesn't have to be necessarily on this computer. Since it's a Windows environment, you can put it anywhere you like. Same thing with the macros. This is where the macros live. But if you want to save them to your own personal folder and not keep them in this macros directory, you can still find them there. Saved file text. This is what shows up when a printed conversation is printed. And you can put in whatever you want in these boxes here. So when I showed you the conversation, it said conversation recorded by Ken's ITY. That's where it got it from. I mentioned I had no header in the conversation. That's why there's no header here. And then down here is my footer, which you saw. This conversation is confidential. That was all at the bottom of the printed document. So these are adjustable. You can have whatever you want automatically printed just by typing them in here. And the last tab is language selection. This is pretty interesting. Local terminal speech. Enable speech compatibility. And this is pretty exciting stuff here. If I turn this on, this makes Interpretype friendly to JAWS, Dolphin, and Window Eyes. If you're familiar with screen readers for blind individuals, that's how they communicate with their computers. We have the necessary requirements that those programs need. So we have the speech delay for each line, and the incremental speech delay per character is all adjustable right here. So very easy for a blind individual to talk to a deaf individual using Interpretype. If we click this Enable Braille Compatibility, it will allow JAWS or Dolphin to output to a USB Braille display, and now a able-bodied person can communicate with a deaf-blind individual who can read Braille by outputting it to a Braille display. So now a deaf-blind can actually read in Braille what the other person has typed on their computer and then type back to the other person either in Braille or on the regular keyboard. So this is our deaf-blind solution right here and our blind solution. So we didn't have to invent the wheel again. These screen readers and stuff were out there. We just opened up the program and made it more friendly to those devices. Enable lecture automation. This is one of our newest features also. It's coming out it's in the new release we're releasing right now. So any new computer will have this built into it. What this does, you saw in the regular conversation, in order for me to put the text up in the conversation display window, I had to press enter. In fact, I'll show you that real quick. So here. Oh, it's going too quickly now. It sends things automatically is what it's doing. So since this is checked, if I pause for half a second, 500 milliseconds, it will send whatever is in that box into the conversation immediately. The reason I have it set this way is if I'm using speech recognition, all I have to do is pause my voice for half a second, and whatever is in that box will get sent into the conversation. This allows the teacher to use this as a CART device, computer-aided real-time transcription. It will actually stream whatever someone says into the conversation and then project it to, and then send it to all the other Interpretype devices in the room, or send it up to a big screen if you're using an LCD projector, and I can actually basically close caption an entire lecture. All I have to do is hang a wireless microphone on a teacher that has trained their voice recognition profile on an Interpretype device. So that's pretty exciting. You can have a whole class watch it in text while the teacher's talking, not just deaf or hard of hearing people. So that's one of our newest features that we're pretty excited about. The rest of these two items, everything is available in the Languages tab that was on the screen before. You can switch local or remote terminal to English or Spanish and see what the other devices are set at. And that's what all these tabs are about on the bottom here for setup options. And I think that was all I had to show you under the file. Yeah, so we've been through all that. Under Help, you can go to our website, ITY Support. The Help page, this is our entire user's manual is built into this help page, so you don't even have to pull. In fact, we're not printing the user's manual anymore. It's just right here in F1 or right here under the Help page. The entire user's manual is there, so you don't have to go looking for it. It's just always there. So that's kind of the heart of the Interpretype software itself. Do we have any questions at this point before I move on to some of these other buttons? Okay, I don't see any. We can always go back, and then I'm going to talk about pricing when we get done, because I know that question came up. So let me just minimize this. So that was all under the text button. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on video and phone. I'll just describe what they are. If I click video, this will open Purple P3 software. And I don't know if people are familiar with Purple, but it allows computers to be used as a video phone and allows you to connect to a via remote interpreter, VRS operator basically, or another deaf individual using a video phone or Purple P3 software. So this will sign in, and then you'll get a chance to see me, meet me. Here I am. Hi everyone. You can see me wearing the headset. These headsets, by the way, are noise canceling headsets. They all come with each Interpretype device or software so that you can use Interpretype the way it's meant to be used. So this is Purple P3. It's not our program. Purple puts it out, powered by Purple. And this is what it looks like. It acts as a video phone. I have a box up here where I can dial any number to a deaf individual or hearing individual. If it's a hearing individual, a sign language interpreter will show up on the screen immediately, tell me that it's making the phone call for me. If it were a deaf individual with a registered 10-digit number, it would automatically call that person, and I would be able to sign to them and communicate face-to-face in that respect. So that's what's under the video button. It just brings up this Purple software. Allows you to use as a video phone. And under the phone icon is Skype. Now I'm not going to click it because Skype's going to want to take over video also, and you can't have two videos running at the same time, let alone pushing a webinar out to everybody. So you may have noticed in the video that, I'll bring it back up again for a second. There may be some shadowing. It may not be as clear. You may not see my hand move. I'm seeing it move very clearly. You may not, but it's only because we're asking this little computer to put so much out right now. Video, the webinar, it's running all these things in the background. And I'm doing this all over a wireless network, so this is all being done over the Wi-Fi. So just want to show you when I'm not projecting a webinar, it's very fast, very clear, crisp video. It's all been tested with other video providers and works very well. So last but not least, let me describe a little pricing and how this thing works and what we do. Basically, there's two types of Interpretype devices. There's communicators and there's translators. The difference is the translator has the translation programs built into them. They have the translation module loaded in addition. Looks like we have a quick question here. Let's see what we got. Oh, thanks. Let's see. Oh, she has P3 and source and using VRS. It is cool. Okay, so we have a P3 user already. That's great. So yeah, it is pretty popular, and they all talk to each other. So whether you use P3 or like she says, she has a Sorensen, some people have other types of webcams or video phones, they're all supposed to be able to talk to one another on one standard. So that's why it works well with any system you're using. Okay, so you know what? Let me go back to video and I can show you my little carrying case and stuff and show you how Interpretype comes. This is the bag Interpretype comes in. It looks like a little lunchbox. But it actually holds two of the netbook computers. In fact, here's my other one right here, if you can see it. It'll hold two of these in this bag. On one side, all the cords and everything on the other side. And most people buy what we call a C 2.0. That would be a communicator 2.0. The first number, the 2, represents hardware. The second number, the 0, represents additional software that you would have purchased. So a communicator 2.0 would be a pair of Interpretype devices that two Interpretype computers, no extra software, and since they're communicators, they don't have the translation software built into them. If you bought a T 2.0, it would be the same pair of Interpretype computers, but one of them would have our language translation software loaded on it, so that's a T 2.0. Now, you may have a laptop or you may have a desktop computer and you don't need two computers, so you don't need to buy an extra one from us. So we might want to sell you a C 1.1. That would be a communicator, one piece of hardware, in other words, one Interpretype computer, and then one extra piece of software that you can load on your laptop or on your desktop. That would be a C 1.1. Wouldn't have the translation on it. It's a lot cheaper. And you don't necessarily need to buy two computers from us. So you could actually put your laptop in your case, grab the extra Interpretype computer, and go anywhere you want and make full use of Interpretype using your own laptop and one of our devices. So at list price, we do have discounts for government and colleges and universities, but the list price for a C 1.1 is $1,495. The list price for a C 2.0 is $2,295. That's for the carrying case, the bag, both computers, no translation software. You get the cable, you get 2 headsets, and all the power cables and things you need. And it also comes with 3 years of customer support. Let me see what this question is here. Our discount for the C 2.0 goes down to $2,211 as opposed to $2,295. It's not a big discount, but that's the price. $2,211 and some change is the price for a C 2.0. We do have volume discounts if you buy 10 or more units. We also sell a C 2.2, something a library might buy. A C 2.2 would be a pair of Interpretype devices in a bag and 2 extra software CDs. And what you could do is load 1 CD perhaps at the reference desk and 1 at the checkout desk, and then split the 2 computers up and put 1 on each counter, so that anyone that walks up to reference can use Interpretype, and anyone who walks up to checkout can use Interpretype. So you actually split up the system. But if you ever want to have a private conference or take the units elsewhere, just take them off the counter, go into the back conference room, have a chat with someone, and when you're done, you can put the units back on the counter where they originally came from. So you can get kind of a multi-use, mobile and fixed in 2 positions. So some people do that, and that's a pretty inexpensive way of having 2 or 3 types of systems all the way around. And the only difference between a T and a C is the language translation module, and that is a $1,000 option. So instead of $2,295, a T 2.0 would be $3,295. So that's about how our software works. If you just want our software and you want to load it on, you have a couple laptops that you can use Interpretype on, our software is $500 per license, so $500 per seat. So if you had 2 computers and you just want our software, it would cost you $1,000 for the 2 of them. Maybe a little less with a college or university discount. So that's the gist of it. Look at that, almost 1 hour on the button. That was pretty good. What other questions do we have? You know what I think I'll do? I'll close this screen, and I'm going to bring back up my Illuminate a little bigger so I can see. Okay, looking through some of my questions here, see if there's any more. Okay, I think that's the gist of it. Anyone else have any more questions? I certainly appreciate your time.